Welcome CSE 121 W1 to our Unit 15 exercise, EX27, Attendees. And we're going to try to combine some Tkinter interface entry modules, entry fields, and some Python functions and put them all together in a CSV file. So we'll either finish with a bang or a thud here at the end. Either you're burnt out or you're excited to work on this, but either way, if this becomes a big problem, I may do this as a bonus if people are burned out and don't have time to work on this since it's being uploaded for Unit 15. But we do have 2 weeks since our semester ends May 16th, but I thought this would be neat to kind of incorporate Tkinter module just a little bit more with Python and with some functions and with CSV files to kind of finish things off and do kind of a bigger kind of thing. Now, we'll take it slow here and we'll do it in little pieces. And again, this could be bonus points if it becomes a problem here at the end, or if you've just had enough, because we did do a lot this semester for a Programming 1 course. So what you're going to need to do first is go to Documents and Resources, and there's a PDF that I have here. Now, I did this like 4 years ago, so I'm a little rusty with it, but I think it's a neat exercise to kind of bring a lot of things together, and here's the PDF for it. And I may change some things from when I did it last. Now, the last time I did it, I just named all the elements. I'll zoom in here so you can kind of see what's going on. This is basically what our interface will look like. I tried to keep it simple, basically like a little HTML form. If you think of it that way, it's like HTML and using JavaScript. Instead, in this case, we're using Python, and Tkinter is our HTML in this case. So we're going to have 2 labels. You're just going to put in your first and last name, or just different names. We're going to put in a first name, a last name in an entry field. So we have labels, entry fields. That's why they have lab and ENT. Now we could change these and put like F lab 1 or L lab 2 and F ent 1, so they're not so general. So they may, when you see them all in the grid layout, it helps you a little bit, but that's up to you. And then we basically have a lab 3. I'm not sure why it has a capital L here, but this was actually, I think, a filler I put in here just to fill some space if we couldn't put padding just below, because they have padding above and below. So maybe I just put a label in there. Again, it's been a while since I did that, so maybe that's what that is. These are just fillers in here, labels with the same color as the background. I might have done that, or we just create an extra row here with nothing in it. But we'll see as we start to work on it, because remember, we're setting up a grid, so we have 2 columns and then we have 8 rows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 with the button down here. So that's what we're going to set up. And again, trying to do somewhat of a simple interface, and I'll just show you what happens first. So let's just look at the finished product here. I'll run it. We're going to create an Attendees CSV file, and it's going to basically have first and last in it. We can put that in it to get started. So that's like the column heading. Then when we run this, we're going to put in a name like Bob Brown. There's Bob Brown. And then we're going to insert the name. And then we're going to add him. And that'll add him to our list. And there he got added to our CSV file. Then we're going to add another. And then I'm going to go up here and do Jim Jordan. I'll just do names with the same first and last letter. And then we insert. And then we add attendee. And then he gets added. And that's all we do. So that's what we're doing here. Now what's going to happen here, I'll move this over. That's getting added to a CSV file, but there's a lot to do here to get it there. First of all, we have to set this thing up, which, with Tkinter is not easy. It's all this labs, and here's all the Tkinter setting it up. All the TK, titles, attendees list, configure the background color, padding all around it, and then there's our entry labels, there's entry fields, there's spacer labels. That looks like what I did here is just create spacer labels to fill in a row here. And basically whatever the default size is for the font, that's basically how big they are. So that created the space in there. And then we have buttons. We have 3 buttons. We have an add another button. We have a insert button. And then we have the add attendee. And again, we can maybe make these buttons a little more descriptive. So it's not just button 1, button 2, button 3. Obviously the names make it easier, but when you get through this list, that gets confusing. But in some of the things I just want to point out here, some of these things here, row 1, row 0, there's a label, and it's Sticky West. And so that would be this first label. It's Sticky West, meaning to the west. And lab 2, label 2 is Sticky to the west. And then we have entry labels in column 1, which is the second column over here. So they're filling in here. We didn't have to put sticky in there because I think they take up the whole column. that's in there. So we have entry labels here. Those are the entry labels. Then we have label 3, which is basically just a filler label. And then we have button 1, button 2, button 3 is down at the bottom. We have a filler label, and then we have another entry that's a column span. This column span down here is where the full name is going to show up, and it's shown as sticky east and west. That just means it's kind of a line left and a line right. They have these weird terms in here, and they use capital W and capital E and things like that. Even in some places there's something through the end. I'll show you some code here where it actually goes through. It deletes some of these fields 0 to end, which means it deletes the whole field. You have to put 0 to end with a capital END like that. So we're going to go through and do these functions at the end, but we're going to set it up first and set up the interface so it looks okay, and then we're basically going to put functions on the add another. Well, first of all, the insert, which will insert it into this field. Add attendees will add it to the attendees CSV file, and then add another will clear everything and start it over. Or the attendee will clear. Let me just see again. I'll put another one here. Art Anderson. And I'll put insert, and then when we hit add attendee, that clears everything. And then add another kind of starts us all over again. Now, unfortunately, I think that it should go up to here. For some reason, it's not doing there. I'll have to look at the add another, what happens at the end. It does a file close, and it clears everything. When you add, here's the add attendee. You can see there's a clear method in there, or clear function. We're actually calling another function, which is clear. So we're clearing everything, which deletes everything from the fields, and then we're calling it from another button. So that's what we're going to do in this. I think this should be interesting to finish off. And like I said, if you find it a really big problem, we'll just kind of do it as a bonus kind of thing at the end. But I think it'll be nice to kind of bring things together and hopefully prepare you for working with Java next semester if you're going to do that in the fall, because that gets a little more complicated than Python. So remember, you have your PDF here, which has kind of an interface which you can change and make it more detailed, and then it starts off with some code here to get started, and then there's some details here if you like going through this, if you don't want to watch the video, but hopefully I'll be able to talk you through it. And let me just point this out too. When we get to the point for the CSV files, when you need some more resources, there's Tkinter resources here. There's stuff about writing CSV files, but actually there's an append CSV file here which you can actually click on and even copy code or look at the code if you want to. It's forkable, so you could even fork it. But the one that says append, if I click on this, basically it shows you kind of what we're going to do. So it's kind of like a little cheat sheet here. I'll show the code, and here's the main code here. And this is kind of what we're going to do here. We're going to use this with open. And this is people CSV, this isn't attendees, but it's very much like this. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to append names to a list, and then we're going to basically go through the list, which is names, and then we're going to append that to a CSV file. So here's a bunch here. You could even try it out. You could even run it and try it out and see how it works. But that's a little cheat when we get to that point. So we're not at that point yet. We're going to start with the Tkinter stuff, and then we'll get to the import CSV stuff. We won't even do first, last, and age. We're just going to do first. So it'll even be simpler than what's going on here. So, and this one is actually set up just in Python. This is not Tkinter. This is just Python where you can actually do stuff in the console and it gets written to a people.csv file. But that's a little help as well when we get to that point, and I may too, because I haven't done this for a while. So we have resources here, and I'll try to walk you through it for this last exercise here, but our first part is going to be getting this set up, and hopefully the PDF will get us started here. So I'm going to do that in part 2. I won't do anything more in this video. In part 2, we'll try to set up our Tkinter interface and get that all ready to roll, and then after that, we'll focus on our functions in inputting our data and getting it to get added to a list, and then we'll write it to a CSV file or append it. That's actually what we're doing. We're going to be appending it. So we use this, we're not using an R or W, we're actually using an A here to append it. So it's really not a whole lot of code here. So hopefully we can crank through this fairly quickly. So stay tuned for part 2 where we'll get this started. We'll start it from scratch and get it going. And hopefully it'll be easier than it looks.